Okay, Michael, you are here. The first one, as always.
Hello, Martin. How are you?
Ah, good. I saw a very funny movie about the question, how are you? Well, this is a very nice and common conversation starter in the US. For a German, this is a very unusual question. I don't know whether they told you before.
Now, why is that, Martin? Is it too
It's just
personal? Is it too personal or what?
no, in Germany, you wouldn't ask that unless you're really interested in how someone is, right? So, but in the US, you just, how are you? And then the other said, oh, fine, thank you. And then you are in the midst of doing a small talk, probably. So,
Well, it's like good morning, even if it's raining, right? Good
uh-huh.
morning. You've
Yes.
got your greetings. You've got your first time
Oh,
greetings when
wait,
you see someone.
wait, maybe I saw a very sharp um, comment on that
Hey,
on
what's up, guys?
you. Hi, Zach. I saw a very sharp comment on that on YouTube about a German who explains why "How are you?" is an intrusive question in Germany. So
Mm.
wait, I put it maybe in. I have it here. So hello, Zach. Nice seeing you. How come? How is it that you're here? Roland here. Hello, and Christoph is also here. Very
We
nice.
doing just audio today. That works for me.
Yeah, as you wish. Most of us are on audio because that's the most convenient one. We don't show slides here, and we don't care
Sounds good.
about each other's faces. And um, here is very easy and very simple. We talk about innovation there from all aspects and all perspectives. Usually, we start with an example that comes from a local event. And then, yeah, maybe Roland, you explain a bit more. Can you take over for 2 minutes? I believe there is something burning in my kitchen.
Okay,
Oh,
we try to do.
yeah.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, yeah, as Martin already explained, I mean, Martin started this whole show, I think, during the Corona seasons when everything was locked down. So he came up with the idea of bringing together people who are in constant touch with the markets and with innovation. And over the years, it has developed into a format where people contribute their insights. So we come from completely different fields, as a matter of fact. So Martin is a patent attorney, but it's always my impression that he acts more like a business consultant than as a patent attorney. I'm a patent attorney. Michael Ostrovsky and Joe Slaughter, they are in absolute close touch with business. So they do consulting work and stuff like that. And we regularly convene once a week right now, and share opinions and share yeah ideas about how to promote innovation and how to promote business. So, by the way, who are you? Zach, who
Hey
are
guys. Yeah, I'm Zach. Um, I'm an inventor, a software developer. So I guess that's how I found my way here.
Yeah, good. Just join the LinkedIn 4x4 group. If you have not found it, look for 4x4, number 4, numeral 4x, numeral 4, and then space innovation, and then you would probably find it. And then, yeah, today I brought three topics we could discuss. I have an update from the brewery that wants to do breakthrough innovation. And then I saw an article about a former or current Ford CEO who says that the manufacturers started too early into the electric vehicle production. And at the same time, we have an entire German state, and not a small one and a powerful one, who decided via referendum that they will make the state CO2 neutral. And in doing so, they plan to even dismember their natural gas network that is running citywide. And if you do that, then there's no way back because this building up this costs hundreds of millions. And also they want to the heatings of the houses to be changed from oil and gas to alternative energies. And to me, this sounds a bit like the same as what the car industry started when they said, now we put all our capital into electric vehicles when Tesla was so successful and they wanted to participate. And now they can feel the headache that it doesn't work. And yeah, so I leave it to the lions then here to decide what you want to discuss. If anybody else has another another matter, then I'm also fine with that. I'm just happy because that's how the round is made up. Christoph, you're from China, and in China the electric vehicles seem to be a success, but maybe also not. So what would you say to and you're an expert in China because Christoph lives in China and works in China, and he's an expert in the local business because he works for German Chamber of Commerce there and has firsthand insight into what goes on in China.
Yeah, thank you, Martin. Welcome, everyone. I would be curious about a quick update about the brewery. How did they move forward? Maybe not for an hour, maybe just 10, 15 minutes, and then move to another topic.
Sure, no problem. So what has happened is what pity that Rich is not here because he would be one of the targets because
I'm here.
I think
Ah,
Rich
you're
is
here.
here.
Rich. Ah, good. Because I was hoping that you're here, but I didn't see you because of the rich participants list. And so the following. We had two meetings online. In the first meeting, I just outlined the bigger picture because they thought that they could deal with that issue, that innovation issue. That I mean, that the German breweries they all have declining consumption in alcoholic beverages, and they can not possibly or not easily equalize that decline with the gains in the non-alcoholic beverages that they have. So they need something different, and uh, and so we were discussing, and I just said about the expectation of what would it would cost, and it was my estimation with my many projects that I've seen so far that you need at least 1 million or 1.5 until you have a new product line that with a completely new product, with not a new beer brand or a new beer type, but something that brings you into a completely different market segment with something that is, and it's very clear that it must be non-alcoholic. And I would even ask whether they stay with the liquids. And then I introduced them to the 4x4 matrix and to the Ansoff matrix just to gauge a bit where the risk is and what the costs are and how it is distributed. And that caused already a shock at, among the owners. And because I said, I mean, you need 1 or 1.5 million, right? And there's a brewery with 100 people, and the first reaction was, oh, that's impossible. So Rich, you're in the best business when you say we need to get something below 10,000 euros for the start in order to show them some initial success. And I believe that if you work with a brewery today can not only sell within Germany, it should at least look at the whole of Europe, if not at US as a big market and similar because we are Westerners, but also Asia. And in Asia, you have the two blocks, which is China and the Southeast Asia, the upcoming, maybe just a little fraction of what is in China. But what is going on in China. But what I've seen is that among German companies, there's a certain sentiment that is against China. I started to feel that already 1.5 years ago here in our group from our members in the US, but now I can see the same in Germany. And yeah, so that's the big plan. And I would say that they would need to start with a few product ideas and with the product ideas at the same time or even before, find out what is it what their existing customers want. Yeah, yeah. Rich, does this sound like a plan or what would you do? And and then would take one or two in the US, one or two in Europe, one or two in Asia, maybe two in China and one in Southeast Asia and ask a few people what they think.
Yes, that's certainly one approach, right? Um, I think the other approach too is to take a step forward with them and say, hey, we need to do a little bit of a diagnostic here of the
Okay.
firm, right? And understand where they're at and
Yes.
understand it in more specific detail, and then understand some of the things that they've done successfully, understand certainly their customer base, who they think their customer base is,
Uh-huh.
and then understand by talking to some of those customers, um, what they appreciate in the company's products today.
But those
Some of
would be
the
consumers, right? Or would you also talk with the intermediaries that are there?
you have to talk to both. I mean, you have to talk across the entire value chain,
Okay.
um, to understand some of the constraints that they're facing, from a competitive nature, and the competitive landscape, and just get a feel for that. um, it, that can be done pretty quickly. It doesn't need to be an analysis that takes months, or 3 or 4 or 5 months to do. I mean, that can be done in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I would
uh,
say so, right? It should be
yeah,
fast.
yeah, it can be pretty quick. It, and then sort of get into the piece as you just described. um, and I think that understanding where they're at today, and then understanding and sort of projecting forward, what are some opportunities. I wouldn't tell them this, but I would start to, at that same time, look at some potential startups that are in the
Yes.
beverage industry, and
Okay. Yeah.
and see who's out there, and what's out there, and understand some of the challenges and some of the um, solutions that they're trying to bring to market, and
Okay.
working on and solving, right? And understand what those problems are, and how does that reflect back to the customers of the brewery currently.
Yes.
And then you've got some starting places, right? You have one starting place that could be a sort of a joint venture. It could be a small investment in a startup that's looking for some funding, to sort of get deeper, take a small position, equity position in the company. And then, as that starts to mature and come forward, you have a right, you negotiate a right to acquire more stock,
Yes.
and you do that over a period of time, that instantly, right? And um, as you're working with the team and understand the team, and that can be your bridge to the new, as we've been talking about using
Yes.
Frank's terms. Um, so you could have that going on. You could also look at some licensing and some private label kinds of opportunities. Um, so there's a myriad of different approaches to take to get some growth going in the company.
Yeah. That sounds all very familiar to me. So it's yeah, that and then also give it take a bit of an take a bit of an agile approach means that in the midst, if someone feels that he should focus on on a specific point more than on others, then just let that person explore that, and also have audio recordings of the interview and using AI for evaluating all these. Because my experience over now 3 years working with the AI on a daily basis is that when I talk with inventors and I record the sessions and I feed the recordings into the AI, then and I discuss with the AI about the recording, I get much more insights than before when I just do it with my handwritten remembrance. Because it seems to me that when I take notes from such talks, they're all biased by my own understanding, and it gets a very new perspective when I use AI to discuss about those. So I believe AI, and especially AI that is trained in innovation, is a good sparring partner for the outcome of those interviews. And maybe there would even be second interviews with follow-up questions with the same people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a strategy that I use that is, basically you diverge and then you converge, right? And when you diverge, you basically, cast a very, very wide net, and then when you converge, you bring all those, nuggets together, so to speak,
Yes.
right? And so
Yeah.
that helps you, power through all that.
Could even train an AI just for that purpose, with all the insights that are there, and then let all the transcripts run through the same AI, and then start a discussion. I believe that that would be a new twist to the thing, and it is also helpful. But at the same time, I would also want that they would buy, or at least subscribe to the idea that they would be the ones who purchase it. Because just talking with people who have good ideas or insights is one thing, but having actual consumers whom we are targeting is a different thing. And so I still believe in this pre-purchasing, pre-buying, even more for consumer products.
Say, Martin.
Yes.
Martin. Okay, so as we said last week, the companies worldwide in the beer business have trouble diversifying. Now, there's a mega trend. Many observers of the worldwide alcoholic beverage market
Yes.
for low percentage alcohol try to look at the growth of wine versus the decline in beer. So some of the beer companies have tried to leverage their capital equipment. So basically, if you're into brewing and fermentation, fermentation, of course, is important in wine, and you don't need solids processing. In brewing, you deal with grains and hops and barley. So if you're trying to optimize the equipment and resources of a brewery who's trying to diversify, you're in big trouble. Segmenting the market, you mentioned liquids. So if you look from the top down, you could take the world beverage market and segment it into alcoholic, non-alcoholic, and then from the point of view of the market, you could segment it
Michael,
consumed at home. Well, let me
Michael,
finish, Martin. Let me finish. You're basically dealing with an industry that is stuck in their knitting. There's not a lot of diversification that's concentric for a
Mi-
brewery.
Michael, you're coming from a top-down approach.
Well, I'm coming from a strategy approach. The
Yes,
companies who have diversified, so
but
two of the giants in the U.S. got into sports stadiums, and Coors got into ceramics because they were very good at ceramic kettles or whatever.
Michael, different approach here. We start from the bottom, and we have people who want to innovate something, and they go around and they look for a problem that is worth being solved. It's a very different approach.
Well, the
It's-
giants in brewing have done that for 100 years, Martin.
No.
They have a lot of money and they have to get into new business. So basically, it's a conglomerate move. These
Yeah, but
companies, it's hard to leverage
that's
the
that's why
brewing process.
that's why I brought in the Ford example. The, just because these are big companies and because they have a strategy and they do a top-down approach to do innovation, doesn't mean that the small companies with 100 employees would adopt the same strategy. Actually, it's the other way around because they have to live in scarcity and to the development there, and they need to be very careful with where they put the money. And $1 million is a lot of money for this company. And I wouldn't tell them, hey, you need an MBA, and then let's do a strategy, and then let's develop the strategy down to a new product until it's in the shelf. That will not work for that type of company, I can tell you, because I've seen that hundreds of times. So what my plan is, and that also is the plan for the entire ecosystem that we are setting up here, that we all come from the same point of view. Yes, there is a strategy and we can look at what we do from looking at the big picture, but at one point in time, we need to get the boots on the ground and start somewhere. And that's where we are. So this
Martin,
yes, Joe.
when you say from the bottom up, do you mean from the customer?
No, I mean from the innovators, the guy who are in
Ooh.
charge.
Then I would like to orient you towards the customer's risk of not buying your product.
The customer's risk of not buying the product would be that the USP that they have developed, I like that remark, Joe. There would be that if they don't buy that drink, they will have a disadvantage over those who buy that drink. And that disadvantage, because we were sitting in that meeting, right, online, and then one of the guys started from the same approach as Michael today, top down. So this is my vertical, this is my segment, this is this, and we can change the color, the taste, and the appearance, and the bottle, and the brand, blah, 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 blah. This is what we can change. So now what do we do? I said, no, 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 no. You need to look at certain problems that out there. And what a pity that Bruce is not here. Bruce Wojcik, because he really emphasizes all the time on that. He said the real successful innovation is done by people who go around looking for problems that are worth being solved. And they see ghosts as a metaphor, which means that they see patterns before other people can see those patterns. And so, according to Bruce and his group, you better look out first for people who have that capability, because not every engineer has it, and not even every inventor has it. Many inventors don't have it. I've seen so many inventors failing. But they are the true innovators, and they have even written a book, a well-researched book about it. Is a serial innovator, as a guy who does it all the time, but as an employee and not as an owner of a company. So, but this is where I'm coming from. I have entrepreneurs, guys who are like serial innovators, but they take the business risk because they can afford $1 million, but not 10 million. And but they can get 10 million from a bank if the product is good and they see an opportunity. That's not the issue. So now we are back to how can we find a problem that's worth being solved, and that's also part of the bottom up. So we need to send the sentinels out and ask them, what is it that prevents you from drinking beer? Probably that would be one question, right, Rich? Another question would be, if the answer is, oh, because I find that alcohol is not good for my health, so I try to drink something without alcohol, but there's nothing out there that I really like as beer or wine. And then from there you go further and further and further. And in my case, I'm now 60 years old and I suffer from a metabolic syndrome that is almost healed. But I shouldn't drink beer anymore for two reasons. Number one, it has alcohol, and that one is bad for my visceral fat because it prevents it from melting away. And second, I shouldn't drink beer because it would raise my insulin level, not the blood sugar level, but the insulin level, and that is seldom measured by doctors. Most doctors don't even know that you have to measure the insulin. Even in a modern country like Germany or the US, they don't know. So what I would like is a drink that tastes a bit like beer, but not sweet. It should be bubbly. It should come with a form. It should have a decent color, and the taste should be at least not sweet. And what I do not want is I don't want alcohol because if essentially I don't need it. And number two, it should not drive my insulin level up. And that is something that you can influence only on the production level because the consumer cannot measure that easily. For measuring your insulin level, you need a lab. And for accessing the lab, you need a doctor who takes the blood because the lab wouldn't take the blood. And then there are costs and then there are delay and nobody would spend 10 days in the lab and then try all sorts of food, which one drives the insulin up and which one not. So I would expect that the consumer does that. And the good thing is, there's now more and more research that says that by not driving your insulin up, you can even influence illnesses like cancer positively in a sense that you get healed from that. So my suggestion would be to get jump onto this new, at least for me, I would be willing to spend money for a drink that is ready made in a restaurant and I can order it from the menu without the restaurant making a woo-ha because I want something special. And that special would have that, and I would be willing to pay for that. And if you tell me, okay, I can deliver that to your house in 3 months down the road, but you must pay me now for the first 4 deliveries, I would do that. And especially if they say, I pay you the money back if you don't like it, but you must then say what you don't like. So that would be my approach. And before they even go down that route, the suggestion is, because we are all experts here, and what Rich brings to the table, he says, let's do a very early customer review and find out what they say. And I find this is very smart because you don't even need to move around in a lab or buy any equipment or so. You just need to find out what do they want. What is it that they want? Correct, Rich?
Yeah, in a way, yes. Sometimes, you end up not asking that question directly.
Yes.
You ask it indirectly, right? And that provides you a vision into the possibilities, not just a single possibility, but a range of
Yes.
potential solutions.
Yeah.
You're not going into this with a predetermined solution set.
Yeah.
You're going in to understand, the customer behavior. When do they want to drink that drink?
Yeah.
As you just described, is it at dinner? Is it at the Formula One race in Singapore?
Yes.
Is it
Yeah.
so on and so
I
forth?
give you an example. Now, me as a beer drinker, being a Bavarian, I can really drink a lot of beer, and I won't even get drunk from it. So, but I realized that if I drink beer, then I would die very early because it's bad for my metabolism. I may even get cancer, and and so I realized that, and I got a warning shot, a very serious one, 2 years ago, and after that I changed my lifestyle, and as a result of that lifestyle, I attend the German evenings in Singapore that I'm organizing for 18 years now. And I'm the only one who doesn't drink any alcoholic beverage. But I sit there with a sparkling water into which I press a lemon because the restaurant doesn't have lemon. And I bring my apple cider vinegar along. So I have at least a little taste. I mean, I like that lemon apple cider taste. So it's okay. And I drink about five bottles of sparkling water together with that.
Hey, Martin, I think there's something very obvious here. About 20 years ago, a German company called Beck's another company called O'Doul's, and now Budweiser, and another German company called Cloudmeister. So there's 0.0 Beck's beer that came out 20 years ago. It's available in bars and
It
restaurants.
just doesn't taste. It's not.
No, Martin. Here, your niche of health concerns. So if you look at the non-alcoholic beer market, that's probably 5% of the world consumption.
Michael, you don't know the product. The non-alcoholic beer that is currently on the market drives the insulin up.
Well, your medical reason is unique, Martin. The other people want 0.0 so they can avoid the alcohol.
Reason is
they can drive a car. There are many reasons for 0.0, not just your insulin.
The medical reason is not unique. Studies say that 60% of the population in the US suffers from metabolic syndrome.
Well, the people who consume 0.0 are just going for the non-alcohol.
Hear me out,
they're
please.
They're not doctors. They're not doctors, Mark.
Hear me out. Hear me out. 60% of the Americans suffer from metabolic syndrome. That is a fact. And none knows it. None of them knows it. Even the doctors don't know it. The doctors treat symptoms. They treat you against diabetes, against high blood pressure, against high cholesterol, and high whatever other thyroid. But it is a fact that those people that are not only those that are treated against those civilization illnesses have metabolic syndrome, but also those who do not yet know that they will get that one day. And if you give them, if you teach them to eat food that does not drive the insulin level up, that would catch all those birds with one single stone. And that insight is not old, is maybe, I mean, the basic insight is 40 years old, but only over the past 3 or 4 years it became somehow reflected. So I believe that there is a change in the way that people look at those civilization cases. And I believe you can ride on that when you start with those who have the knowledge already, like me, and wait for the others to follow. And if you have this extra feature of not driving the insulin up, and funny enough that you bring it up, because the brewery themselves, they also said this. They said, "Oh, this insulin level is your problem," but we others we don't have that. And then I say, "Yes, you also have it, but you just don't know yet because
Martin,
your doctor doesn't mean that you." Yes, go ahead, Roland.
I have to ask a very stupid question, and sorry to discuss your metabolic state right at the moment. But,
yeah, I'm fine. I'm healed, but okay, go ahead.
Okay. You say it drives up your insulin level. Okay, if you drink alcohol ultimately is converted into sugar, raises your blood, your glucose level in the blood, and a completely normal reaction in a healthy body is for the insulin to go up so that the glucose is taken from the blood into the cells. So this is a completely normal reaction. So it's a good reaction because excess sugar is taken up into the cells. So what exactly is the disease component of that?
The disease component is that you change your metabolism without showing symptoms in the beginning.
Okay, but how do you change the metabolism? I mean, if you have excess insulin, then you deplete your blood of sugar, and this becomes dangerous at the moment where the brain doesn't get enough sugar. I'm not a medical doctor, but that's what I recall from my biochemical knowledge.
No, but
so
that's oversimplifying, because the brain doesn't die if it doesn't have enough sugar, because I'm the living example. The body can live on more substances. And by the way, alcohol is not converted in sugar. Alcohol is converted into ATP in the cell. It does not increase blood glucose directly. In fact, alcohol lowers blood glucose, and among others, the cells can convert blood sugar into ATP, but not only blood sugar, but also ketones. And I'm currently in a ketonic state. I'm in a ketonic state for 2 years already. So I even do competitions in ketosis, burning fat. And you have certainly heard of keto diet, right? That is when people replace the blood glucose in the blood by ketones. They try, so they don't eat any carbohydrates at all.
Yeah,
And
okay.
and
Hey,
then
Martin, I just went to Cleveland Clinic. I went to Cleveland Clinic on the web, and
Uh-huh.
please do this after we're done. It says it's 1/3 of Americans have metabolic, and it says if your waist is more than 40 inches, it says if you don't exercise enough, cardiovascular, if you don't maintain a healthy diet, you're going to be in the 1 in 3 that have this metabolic syndrome. So again, the 0.0 alcohol, per Roland's point, I think the ingredients of metabolic syndrome that are cited on Cleveland Clinic all improve if you simply go to 0.0 beer. And the breweries, the ones that I mentioned, Budweiser did it, okay? Beck's did it. So 0.0 and allows you to drive when you leave the
Can we
restaurant.
just, yeah, Michael, you're
That's the
repeating
market. That's
yourself.
the marketing. That's the marketing of what
You're
breweries have
repeating
done.
yourself. Let's first discuss this thing. The alcohol is not converted into sugar, but it's converted into acetaldehyde and then acetate. And that one is there's a specific cycle and that one is converted into ATP. So alcohol
And no, it's
never
not
becomes
converted
sugar.
into ATP. The energy gained from that is used to build up ATP. That's the correct biochemical interrelationship.
This is why we have you here. I'm only an engineer and patent attorney, but I see more from a systemic point of view and as a consumer of beer. And there are two good reasons why I shouldn't drink beer anymore. Very good reasons.
Okay. I mean, we get a little bit lost on the technical discussion, but I think overall we're going into the right direction that such a product that is maybe for sports people could be an attractive product for them to develop.
I just tell you, I want to sit in a restaurant and order something that I like without being looked at by the whole table because it's so out of everything. And I don't want to drink what they have there, which is bubbly water. Yes,
Okay.
I drink it, but that's not enough. And I don't like the soft drinks because they come with sugar. And I don't like tea because I want something cold, bubbly. And I don't, yeah.
Okay.
So, and there's nothing.
Okay.
And
Have a glass of wine, Martin. Have a glass of Mosel.
oh,
You know,
You
be
like
now to the wine.
fashionable.
Now
Have
to the
one
wine.
glass of wine.
The wine is the same, is also not good. And
Just have one glass.
hear
One
me
glass
out.
is good for your heart.
No, I'm sitting there for the entire evening, and one glass is then not enough. So you need to. So I talked with the wine dealers in Singapore, and they all tell me that the wine sales is declining, and the only segment that is growing is alcohol-free wine.
The reverse osmosis wine, where they take out all the alcohol and then
I
they
don't
get
know.
the flavor of it.
It,
Yeah, they put the wine through reverse osmosis membrane
Joe, that's
filters and
called
then
grape
they.
juice. That's
There-
called grape juice.
there are
No, this
other.
is after they ferment it, Michael. After they're fermenting it, they're then taking the alcohol out.
What
That's
I
going
can.
around the block to get next door. Just get Welch's grape juice.
Michael, you're not
Okay.
serious. So what I want to say is the following: the only growth in the wine market, and is a huge growth, is 40% per year. Currently in Singapore is alcohol-free wine, no matter how they made it. I don't know how you make alcohol-free wine, but that's what I can tell you. And when you tell that number, then to the beer manufacturers, the breweries in Germany, they get very big ears suddenly. That's a German saying for they get very interested. So I believe the future for those companies is alcohol free. And I must say, if I mean in Germany it's very common that for dinner you have a glass of beer with your wife. You sit there, you have dinner, and you have a glass of beer, and then you switch on the TV, and then you have your second glass of beer, and then you have a third glass of beer, and then you go to bed. So that's a typical, I would say, normal working class German's evening. Roland, am I right? Or Christoph?
Well, not my evening because I don't know if you even know that word, teetotaler. No, that's not
But
correct.
you're also
I
not
don't-
work class. You're white collar. Oh.
Okay. No, but I don't drink much alcohol for reasons obvious. I drive 200 kilometers per day, so better stay sober. I have to say,
That sounds like a
once,
risk.
well, sorry?
That sounds like a risk that you've addressed in a different way, and that the beer maker is not addressing that for you. That is a
Oh,
risk.
okay, yeah. I was just telling the solution. During summertime, once a week, I indeed do drink beer because we have a little sailing group and do some regatta on Lake Starnberg. Martin, you know that very well, I guess. And on that occasion, after the lost regatta or sailing contest, we have a glass of beer and it's alcohol-free beer.
Uh-huh.
And I think Michael presented the solution to you. We have very exquisite beer tasters in our sailing group, and they wouldn't touch sweet beer anyway. So I can tell you in private, the two brands which our colleagues recommend, I drink it. It tastes good to me. It's spicy. It's not sweet. And maybe the right product for you already exists, Martin. I will tell you in private what the brands are. I don't want to make any advertisements here.
Okay.
But
But what I can tell you, Roland, this is not the right product because these brands, and I know them because I know them all, they drive the insulin up.
even if we are at 0.0% alcohol,
Yes, it's because of the malt that is inside.
yeah, of course, that's sugar. That must be okay.
This is why the wine ferments it into alcohol, and then they remove the alcohol because they don't want the sugar, but they want the flavor of the fermentations.
Joe, the alcohol-free wines, they all add some juice, fruit juice, to make it taste better. And that's where the sugar comes back. So all the alcohol-free wines have sugar.
Ugh.
The question is, are there any dry wines which additionally have been depleted from alcohol? Then
I
you
have
would
s-
land up
I
with
have
a
seen, I have seen one in
And the other one that they'll do is they'll make rosé out of like a red wine. So they're removing tannins and other objects from the
Joe, they
wine.
all add sugar. All of them. I know.
yeah,
Well, typically the
especially
wine was made in a way that the alcohol got to a point where it killed the yeast and there was still sugar remaining.
Yes, but then after that, once they remove the alcohol, then they add other juice for taste reasons, and that brings in sugar. I know because I really watched. So for 2 years, I need this, and I look around for alternative, and there's nothing that tastes. And and uh, and and I was just. I mean that's the thing, right? Look for a problem that is worth being solved, and I can tell you, like, I don't, and my guess is that half of you look up what is metabolic syndrome. Do I have metabolic syndrome? And what can I do against it? And once you find out that you go to the root cause, then you don't need all those drugs anymore. The statins and the blood pressure drugs and what is there, whatever. Yeah. So if you go for the root cause, which is the metabolism, and the metabolism means look at your insulin and just get the fasting insulin measured, and once you have the fasting insulin measured, compare it what should be the standard. And most people that I know, not most, all, they have a high fasting insulin. And why is this so? Because their metabolism is destroyed. And how to get a better metabolism? I would say number one, stop eating those foods that bring the blood sugar up. That's a good start.
Martin, right there. Can I call those
Why?
risks?
Why?
And that they
Why do
have
you?
severity, frequency?
Why don't you hear me out, Joe? And then you come with the risks. And the second point is when you want to address it is walk every day an hour And the third one is now try to look at the other sources that bring your insulin up. And all those three steps are never recommended by doctors, but they would rather give you pharmaceuticals, which is treating the symptoms. And yes, the blood sugar goes down by giving you more insulin, but that would even cause more disturbance in your metabolism. And more doctors would go for treatments that look for healing of the body as a whole and not only for the symptoms. And by the way, there's a new AI out, it's called Open Evidence. It's a very good large language model that is trained on scientific or scholar articles from the medical field. But now, Joe, I have finished. Go ahead and say what your risks are, what you want to say.
Well, I just want to break out how you're addressing those solutions. They go to different categories of addressing the risk. So you have the severity, the frequency, and the detectability of the issue. So if you don't detect that you have this genetic thing that causes it, then that's an inherent category of the risk that you're not doing anything to address. So only the people, how about this? You don't want to serve that beer to someone that does have that issue, because then you might get a bad review. So if they were able to detect that they had that issue before consuming their beer, you might have less bad reviews. As to the reducing the severity of it, you said go out for a walk, ends up reducing the problematic of it. Well, a different solution would have been consume less beer, and that reduces the frequency of this issue. So I just want to categorize that they are different solutions to different parts of the risk.
All what I want to say is the following. I believe that in general there are people out there who want a new drink, because when the beer consumption went down by 40%, they surely drink something else. Or I don't know, there are less people who drink liquid. I don't know. Maybe the whole people drink then. I don't know, but we would need to find out. And that's where the rich method comes in, to go for early interviews along the entire value chain and asking questions what they want or what problem they have that is worth being solved. Correct, Rich?
Yeah, the looking for the problem to be solved is the whole key to this, and using the interview methodology is the appropriate way to identify that.
Yeah.
And then an offshoot of that is the job to be done, and that sort of falls into that metabolic category, right? The job to be done is to maintain my metabolic level within a specific range, and minimizing my insulin intake and variations and blah blah blah, right? So those are all weaved together.
Well, hey, Rich, the other thing is, in my humble opinion, I don't think beer drinkers are scientists. I don't think they're sophisticated. And they might go for alcohol free simply because they think it's healthier for their liver. Okay. Now, the other thing, Martin, there's craft beers, but most of the craft beers, I don't believe, are offering 0.0. But I think and the non-alcohol wine, I just sent a reference from the web on how it's made. So what you said, Joe, about making regular wine, then take the alcohol out. This article talks about doing that with distillation, and I suppose you could do it with membranes as well. But when you're all done, they talk about Welch's, Martin. 150 years ago, Mr. Welch said it's non-alcoholic wine. It's Welch's grape juice. He made that marketing statement 150 years ago. So there you go. And I said,
So
you take the beer drinkers have beer bellies, Martin. Not you, but it says if you're over 40 inches on your waist. So again, the beer drinker is not a scientist. If they want to avoid a beer belly, they know it's high calories. They know it's alcohol. They know that they get sluggish if they have 3 beers in Germany with dinner. So what else do they drink? The doctor says drink 8 glasses of liquids a day, water, whatever. But in the beverage industry, there's only so many things that they consume: alcoholic, non-alcoholic, beer, wine, and hard liquor, spirits, and cocktails, which are mixed drinks. So if they're trying to be a teetotaler, like Roland said, most of the time, Roland, you're stuck with those segments of the market, alcoholic, non-alcoholic. You're consuming liquids. The liquids are either made with mash like beer, where you have solids, powder processing, grains processing. And like you said, Martin, if it's the hops and the grains that cause your metabolic syndrome, there's all these craft beers and IPAs now. These companies have diversified, but I think the IPAs and the craft beers are all alcoholic. So I think the segmentation is really important in this market. And again, I don't think beer drinkers are very sophisticated. They were offered 0.0 from companies like O'Doul's and Beck's and so forth. But as a percent of the store shelf,
Yeah.
that's probably less than
I mean,
5%
these
of
are,
the store shelf.
Michael, these are all valid hypotheses, right?
Think as a marketer, Martin. Think as a marketer, not
Oh,
an engineer.
I'm
You sound like a doctor. A beer
not-
drinker is not a doctor.
I'm not even talking about that. I just told them, if you want to find something new, go out, find a problem that needs to be solved, because you need to get out of your red ocean. And the red ocean is where we compete about the commodities price. And that's not a good place to be. So you need to find out.
So
Yes.
Martin, you know, the danger of these ongoing conversations with the potential client, right, is that, you know, they're mining you for data, right? They're mining you for potential solutions or ideas on how to reach a solution. And at some point, you've got to say, you know, hey, for us to go further, you know, I need to get some compensation on this, right?
Of course.
Because
I had your 10,000 in mind, right? So for the first step, 10,000, and maybe for one market, 6,000 or so. And then if they want to test, then after the first market, the second market, another and another and another, and they need to decide where they start. Because I believe when you look at innovation, you should, like the Americans do, not only look at sell the stuff in the US, but worldwide. So you need to do the same evaluation, not only for one market, but for several markets worldwide. And for me, it's very clear that the US is a very big market, as seen for German brewery, and German breweries are selling in the US. I know.
yeah, of course.
Well, Martin, last
The
week
bulk
we
of the
said
beer I drink is
the
German.
first step, Martin, might be where are they right now? And that's this asset evaluation. Right now, you just said, oh, throw 6,000 at this, 6,000 at that. One observation about the beer producers worldwide is if they try to diversify and leverage their market position or their capital equipment, they fall on their face. And they've gotten into totally conglomerate moves. Again, Coors got into ceramics and Busch got into sports stadiums. One observation in the beverage industry, unlike soft drinks that are easy to diversify, beer people and wine people are kind of stuck with their process, and they're stuck in their currently served products and markets. So how are you going to find these new ones? Look at leveraging their assets, and there aren't too many examples where beer companies have gotten into what I call concentric diversification that has, like Rich said, adjacency. You're not going to have any adjacency. You're just not. You might as well be a conglomerate.
In that state, you would ask a bunch of people, and not only beer drinkers, also others. Say, do you drink liquids? And then they will answer probably yes. So what liquids are you drinking? And then you ask, what are the most expensive ones? When you're social, what do you drink there? And what do you drink in the morning? What do you drink for your lunch? What do you drink when I don't know, in a coffee break? Do you drink coffee, or what is it that you drink?
All that market data, you can buy a multi-client study that segments the beverage industry worldwide, Martin, and you'll get all these different consumers that are falling into these segments.
They will not ask for problems.
Well, there's no problem. You're either dying of thirst or you're not. And if you're dying of thirst, you got other trouble. If you can spend some money, you buy something that's liquid in a bottle, a can, or a glass.
Yeah, okay. And then that's the problem. You have a choice when you buy for money.
Well, you either buy it at home, you buy it in a supermarket, or you buy it at a bar or restaurant or sports stadium, or from a street vendor in New York City. I don't know where you buy a
But,
bottle of water.
are
Well,
there?
since you bring up these stadiums, I want to bring up one very quick parallel. I know a casino. A casino was solving the problem of entertainment. And so they ended up diversifying and they bought a stadium because they got into concerts. And so the entertainment was still the common denominator. So people are thirsty. They're thirsty and diversification.
Yeah. So
And again, Anheuser-Busch opened a football stadium called Busch Stadium. And I forgot, that's in St. Louis, is it?
yeah,
So, yeah, you could make an argument that it's a concentric diversification and it fits, Joe, but I'd say it's a radical conglomerate move.
as
It's kind of crazy,
as boring
Coca-Cola
as it
didn't
is,
buy a sports stadium.
we are
Bush
going.
going into a stadium is much different than a casino going into a stadium because the casino
Well,
is still
it's
in
entertainment.
the
Yeah,
object of
you're-
entertainment. Yeah.
People, we are going in circles. We are talking about. I started talking about Ford, and the Ford guy complained that the companies didn't find out what problems the consumers have that they want to have solved, and they want to pay for. There's an article I put in a 4x4 group, and then I said. That might be the same reason as the city of Hamburg that now stops burning fossil fuels, whatever, and is driven by some ideology or religion that we need to promote this and that and this and that. And then the end would be, I can foresee that already, it would be very bad for the city of Hamburg. It's economically not a wise decision. But still, it was a referendum, so the people want that. Okay, good. Then we went to the brewery, and I just updated you. And what I recommend is to do exactly what the Ford CEO said that their company has not done. Ask the people what they want. And it's not about segmenting or buying segmentation. It's about getting real data and deriving your own conclusion of what is the problem. And you need people who can easily understand and see trends before they are coming, before others see them coming. That's not before they're coming. They must recognize that something started before the competition would realize it, and then be there and serve, and then also have IP in place to serve that demand, and then I don't know, maybe even sell the company. What I don't know, but innovation does not work the other way around. You are not sitting together and studying a marketing report and then say, okay, now let's try this. That's not how innovation works.
Martin, if you ask 100 customers, it's going to be like watching grass grow. If you randomly pick 100 customers and ask them, what do they drink and where do they buy it and so forth, you said, well, don't buy the market data that's already available. I think if you spend 5,000 of your clients' money talking to customers about what they drink, you're wasting your time.
Maybe there are smart ways of doing this inquiry using the internet, for example. You don't need.
What are you going to ask the customer? Are you going to ask him to invent a new beverage? No, you're going to ask him, what do you drink and what would you like to
ask
drink?
them. Imagine that situation. What is your problem here? And the unsolved
They're
problem.
thirsty. Martin, their problem is they're thirsty. They
No,
want
that's not their
something to drink.
problem. The problem is
No, Michael, you're
What are they going to do?
wrong.
They're going to inject. They're not going to inject the liquid or snort it in their nose. They want to drink it through their mouth.
it's not the problem.
Well, then they're not going to drink a liquid. They're just going to eat solid food and choke.
Michael,
Okay?
that's not the problem. The problem is
Ah.
you sit in a restaurant and you want to drink something and nothing on the menu is what you want.
Of course, it's on the menu, Martin. Or else, I mean,
No, I know. I sit in a
tell
restaurant.
them to drink varnish. See how they do drinking paint. Put paint on the menu. Okay.
I sit in a restaurant and there's nothing that I could order what I like. So I end up with something that I don't like.
Well, if you go to dinner and you want orange juice, you're not going to see it on the
Can
menu.
can we sort of stop arguing and just move on?
Okay. Christoph, update us about the electric vehicle industry. Why is Ford wrong? Why did they not need to ask the consumers what they want before they invested billions into plants and everything? 1 minute.
Well, the 1 minute. I would say that the government was making up a plan to say like they want to develop a complete new product line and they want to develop a new industry the electric car industry. So they started to create a lot of incentive. And then the Chinese car manufacturers got very creative to develop really digital first cars that beat out basically the competition.
Okay,
So in many ways, traditional cars are seen as boring, and their entertainment systems are very old school. So the Chinese cars are winning.
so they built a product that nobody wants, while others have products that people want.
Correct. So the Europeans built a car that the Chinese consumers don't want anymore, and that's why they're buying Chinese cars.
Yeah, I remember being taken to the airport picked up from the airport by my friend in Shanghai, and he was talking with a car, and it was a very fancy car. I wouldn't want that car, but he says, "Oh, that's very nice. That car does a lot of things to me." And then he was chatting with the car while driving and telling what they want, and then explaining to me the car. Yes, there's no such car available from Germany, and also not from the US, and also not a Tesla, but the Chinese make them. Yeah. In
Yeah,
very
they're building in smart agents who can basically just have a
Hey,
regular conversation,
hey,
similar like.
Hey, Christoph, by chance, do you happen to know any of the LiDAR manufacturers in China?
Yeah, I know some manufacturers.
Do you know Hesi or Hesa? HESAI?
Not directly. There's quite a lot, but I can find some more information about them if you need.
No, it's sort of ironic because one of the PhD students that I worked with at University of Illinois on a robotics application that I was involved in, he was one of the students in the lab working on this project, and got to know him, and he's now the CEO of that company. And I sent him a note asking him if they are a little giant, and I haven't heard back from him. But they just produced they're the first factory to produce 1 million LiDAR units. I mean, they're at a run rate of like over 100 million a year.
Are these for autonomous driving, Rich? Is that what these sensors are?
Yeah, and also for robotics.
Well, what do you need a robot on a car for?
No,
No,
they have humanoid robots. They also use
No.
LiDARs now.
There's LiDARs being used, Michael, on all sorts of.
I'm sorry. You're two separate markets, automotive and robots. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay, we have reached
Also,
the end
the
of the
flying
hour.
drones are. Yeah.
See you next week, all. Thank you for participating. And Rich, we discuss offline about how we do this inquiry stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
Goodbye. See you
Bye-bye.
next week.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.